Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Gibney, and I am the coordinator of professional learning at Blast Intermediate Unit 17, and I'm also a certified international SOLE facilitator. Today, I will be guiding you through your session on Ignite Your Spark with StartSOLE. SOLE simply means a self-organized learning environment. I will be doing this recorded version or presentation for you, and then the founder of StartSOLE, Jeff McClellan, will be doing the live Q&A session as a follow-up during the CS Summit. Throughout this presentation, we're hoping that you will obviously learn what SOLE is and how to facilitate one, and also leave equipped with the tools that you will need to run a StartSOLE in your own classroom, in a professional development setting. Honestly, you can run StartSOLE anywhere. You could even just be running it in an organization. And lastly, our big overarching question is how can you use StartSOLE to enhance students' learning knowledge of computer science? So we'll cover that as well. If we take it back to, STEM in general, the PA STEM Advisory Committee says, this is what the definition of STEM is in Pennsylvania. We know computer science is also that bucket as well, but we're looking at a what I have bolded there, student-centered approach to learning that encourages curiosity, creativity, artistic expression, collaboration, communication, problem solving, and critical thinking. The cool thing about StartSOLE is that it aligns perfectly to what is bolded right there. When you run a StartSOLE, you will have your kids being curious, be creative. They'll express themselves in hopefully a creative way. They will be collaborating, communicating, problem solving, and also thinking critically. It really touches on those 4 C's of 21st century learners. We will be communicating, right? They're going to share their thoughts. They're going to answer questions. They'll have ideas, and then they'll find solutions. They'll be collaborating, working together to solve the overarching question. They'll be, like I said, thinking critically, looking at problems in a new way, hopefully, or learning and understanding that through collaboration, they can think probably deeper, if not than just being alone and working alone to solve a problem. And then lastly, the creativity. Whatever way they decide to present the material, they'll try new approaches to relaying their message and communicating their solution. So if you want to, you can pause this video, this recording right now, and check out the Future of Learning video. StartSOLE originated by this famous guy down here. If you do not know him, Sugata Mitra, he has the famous TED Talk in 2013 called School in the Cloud, and I have it linked there as well, so you can see that. But he started this idea with, what is learning? What is the future of learning? What happens if I have a computer and I put it, in the hands of students? What are they going to do with it? And so he did a study on this, and you'll hear about it in his TED Talk. But that's where this all originated with StartSOLE. His wish, and I'm just going to read this to you, but in that TED Talk, he says, "My wish is to help design the future of learning by supporting children all over the world to tap into their innate sense of wonder. Help me build the School in the Cloud, a learning lab in India where children can embark on intellectual adventures by engaging and connecting with information and mentoring online. I also invite you, wherever you are, to create your own miniature child-driven learning environments and share your discoveries." That was his wish. That was his invitation to us as educators. And that is what StartSOLE does. It helps to dive into wonder. It helps to create learning environments that are children driven. It becomes student centered, your classroom, your environment. It is student learner centered. And it is really a transition in your teaching if you're using it. Specifically, we'll be talking about using it in the classroom. I want to touch point here too, where he says all over the world, wherever you are, because StartSOLE is not just something in Pennsylvania. It's fairly new to Pennsylvania, but as you can see, StartSOLE is practiced all around the world. all around the world. Jeff travels a lot to Egypt and does trainings, and they're working on building some models. With my international SOLE facilitator certification, I do trainings, with about 16 other global educators from all around the world. And so it's really powerful. And I love always showing this map. As a former Spanish teacher, I appreciate knowing like where StartSOLE originated and how it's grown. It can be very powerful. And as I said before, it's not just used in the classroom. I know in Colombia, in the country, it is used in their community to talk about like sustainable goals and how they want to see the future of Colombia. So enough about like the history, but what is a StartSOLE? It's a very, very simple process. Takes little prep for the teacher, and it's easy. It's not anything new. It really is not anything new. But what is unique about it is there is a protocol and a system to it. And if you follow that system and protocol, students start picking up on things a lot quicker, and the process, they don't have to worry about the process. So the learning becomes richer. So a StartSOLE, the self-organized learning environment, starts by a question, posing a question. Students investigate in groups, and then they review. I have an example here of a video from how teachers use StartSOLE in the middle school and high school, but I also have linked in the resources and in the in the resources on the Schoology page, other settings like pre-K, higher education. And so you can choose what level you work with, and then you can watch and see it in person or on video. But if we were in person, we'd actually be doing a StartSOLE session. But since we aren't in person, this is the best that we can do, and you can see how it works. Like I have mentioned, when you complete a SOLE, there's a lot of great outcomes that come for you as the teacher, but also for your students. And so the impact of StartSOLE on students, they're curious about what this process is. They start owning their own learning. They want to find the answers. It's amazing when I'm in classrooms and I see that switch for the students, where they're like, whoa, this is like pretty cool. And they're seeking the information. There's increased skills that go along with the academics, the social skills, and the self-management skills. And I would also add, the research skills. You can put scaffolds in. If you practice this as it's recommended, like once a week or once every other week, kids, you can start embedding research skills within the StartSOLE process. They're capable to apply new skills in other contexts. They have complex constructs, and then that transformation with their relationship to learning is really important and really, like I said before, awesome to see. For you as the educator, it is a huge jump if you're not used to a student-centered classroom. It's not so much you're the sage on the stage, you're actually a facilitator. And with that, you start developing those facilitative skills. Your relationship with teaching is transformed. Once I started doing these in my professional development settings, doing StartSOLEs, my relationship with how I deliver my sessions and my relationship with my colleagues definitely evolved and transformed. And I'm able to adopt and employ new pedagogies that I wasn't really aware of when I first started presenting. So again, diving deeper, what happens is in, let's say, a 45-minute session, that's all it takes. You don't want to go more than 45 minutes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. When you start drawing it out and taking a lot longer, what happens is you're going to end up with kids maybe not participating. You're going to end up with maybe some classroom management issues. The important part is that we want them to be concise. We're not looking for a final product. We're looking for thinking. We're looking for process, how the kids work together. So what happens is you start by asking a big question. Many of them are aligned to the standards. It takes about 5 minutes, right? You introduce it to them, and I'll show you different ways that you could use questioning. That's another skill within itself. how do you make a good question? And that's something that we can touch on in the future if you're ever interested. But asking that big question, it could be your essential questions. It could be tied to your objectives, your standards. So you introduce it to them. Then you allow students time to investigate. If you're face-to-face, the recommendation is that you only have 2 devices. Again, they're working on their technology skills, right? Researching. If they're virtual, that's sort of hard to control. Everyone's going to need a device, and that's okay. What happens is when you force them to have just 2 devices, it forces them to collaborate. They have to work together. And so usually we recommend no more than 4 people in a group. The investigation phase can look very different. You are an educator. Use your art of teaching to be creative. You can have roles assigned to each person. So one could be the reporter, one could be the recorder, one could be the timekeeper, whatever. You can have them, Jeff, when I started doing this, Jeff had me have someone be a scout, right? And so they go, maybe you're 10 minutes into the research phase and you say, okay, I want the scout to go up and go to another group and check out their findings. Then you have to come back and report to your group. So you can be creative with how you navigate that. And then lastly, so you do that about 20, 30 minutes. If they don't find an answer, that's okay. We want to see the process and their thinking behind it. The last part of this is that they will then review their discoveries and discuss. How, again, art of teaching. You guys can decide how you want this to look. It is very informal, a max of 2 minutes. I often don't even tell my groups how I want them to present. I want them to be creative, right? That's all I say to them. I don't care if you do it on a piece of paper. I don't care, I've been in classrooms where maybe they do it through a Kahoot or something like that, and they try to get fancy. You end up wasting more time in transitions. And so that's why we want you to be careful. It's just a report out. They share their sources, and you go from there. So max of 2 minutes, and they just report out. I've seen this done as a gallery walk. I've seen it done on Flipgrid. I've seen it done as a presentation. Again, they're working on presentational skills. However you want to do it to mix it up. SOLE in the classroom, as I dive a little bit deeper here, each SOLE takes 1 class period. Now, I understand some people will have block classes. So I would say about 45 minutes is the sweet spot for timing. It works with any subject area. Like I said, some people even use this process in the community. Best practice for StartSOLE, when you want to see it make a difference, they recommend that you do a SOLE process once a week or once every other week for that maximum impact. It's aligned, and I'll show you this in a little bit, which I think is amazing. I think everything is streamlined for educators in this process, but it's aligned to the statewide educator effectiveness evaluation, and it's aligned to our Pennsylvania state standards. Again, how is it done effectively? Like I mentioned, get into groups of 4. These are some of our best practices that we mention. Research and prepare a 1-minute presentation. I always have these 3 guidelines. Be creative, cite at least 2 of your sources. And now I don't need them to do like APA, MLA. I just need them to say where they got their information. We always encourage, don't use a .com source. Now, Wikipedia, I always say too, Wikipedia does not count. So no Wikipedia, no .com. And again, if you're face-to-face, only 2 technology devices may be used. And that includes phones. So like you can't, no phone, like if you have a computer. And then those presentations, however you would like to do that. Some things, as I've been training educators across the state on this, they always say, well, how do I get a kindergartner to research? They can't even read. You, by all means, like, it's not like this super strict process. There's just 3 steps: the question, the investigation, review. You can provide them with resources to start. You can do a whole class SOLE to model it. And then eventually you scaffold it to help them be independent in their research. So you can target those resources. And yeah, in kindergarten, it might look, well, it will look very different than a 12th grade classroom, right? So use your judgment on that. Tying it all back to those four C's, you can see here how critical thinking is done throughout a SOLE. And so hopefully you took some time to watch how that is in a classroom setting with a grade level that you teach. But you can see, they're learning by making mistakes. They're reflective problem solvers. They solve problems. And so I'm not going to go through all of these for time's sake, but you can see collaboration, how they collaborate through the SOLEs, how they communicate through SOLE, and how they can be creative using the SOLE process. As I mentioned before, this is aligned to the Danielson framework. And in fact, there's a teacher side of it that is a before, during, and after that I'll share with you. If you're getting evaluated, you can run this for your evaluation if you're doing a formal observation, and you can say to your administrator, this is how StartSOLE is planning and preparation. This is my classroom environment, and so forth, which I think is really an added bonus. So if we get familiar with the tools here, I'm going to walk you through the platform step by step and how you get on. For the students, they don't need to do anything with this website. This is for your purposes as the educator. So sometimes, I'll be honest, I don't even plan my SOLEs anymore on this website, but it is there for you to help plan. And so if you go to www.startsole.org, so you can see I'm pulling it up, when you are creating your account for the first time, you can sign up. I already have an account, so I'm going to log in. And this is their dashboard. Okay. And so there's a bunch of different options that you can do. You can start by planning a lesson. So if I go plan a lesson, I'd say, what's my big question? So I can type it out. I don't know. Why is the sky blue? I say maybe it is, I don't know. I'm just picking science, technology, engineering. I'm going to say it's first grade. I really am not sure. I'm just picking right now. Okay. It narrows it all the way down to standards. Again, very organized that way, and it filters it out for you, which is so fantastic. StartSOLE is not like the StartSOLE police. They're not looking for like a specific time or anything. This is just for your lesson planning purposes. So when's it planned for? What time? So you put your date, your time, what's the duration of the class, 60 minutes, 45 minutes, however you want to do it. Again, I don't recommend doing a whole block. It ends up taking way too much time. How many enabled devices are available? So I might say I'm going to keep it at 5 there, but again, in a group, it would be like 2. How many students are in this SOLE? That's your class size, estimated number of groups, and then what grade is it for? I already said, I can't remember. I think I said 3rd, but, and then I picked science. You do not need a label, but if you want to, you can. Now, this is where the different ways that you can use a SOLE. Okay. You can use a SOLE to introduce a new concept, help the students connect to prior knowledge, allow the students to discover and explore interests on their own, deepen their understanding, review, and you could use it as an assessment. You could say, okay, we just did this unit. I want presentation. Okay. Giving them an overarching question, but let's say I want to review knowledge. What materials are going to be used? And I'll show you some of these as well, but maybe I'm saying I'm giving them writing tools and a poster paper. How am I going to manage this? So I'm going to let them choose their own groups. This is really just walking you through the lesson planning process. I'm going to pick 3 student behaviors that I'm going to focus on as I'm facilitating. Again, remember, as I said, a skill for a teacher is that you develop new facilitative pedagogy. Okay. I'm sorry, facilitative skills. So I don't know. I'm just adding, you pick 3 and I save. What's going to happen then is you can see all the ones that I've done. It goes into your SOLE, like my SOLEs right there. Okay. And then in my email, they're going to send me a lesson plan. Now I can download the plan right here. And this is a pretty generic lesson plan, but it does have, again, as I say about formal observation, this is great. It's already here for you. I can just say to my administrator, here's my lesson plan. It has everything in here. Now, again, it's pretty standard. You might need to highlight what specifically you're going to be doing. But you can see everything. It's a very detailed lesson plan for you. And it also usually aligns, you'll see the standards on some of them as well. So that's the plan. If I want to facilitate this virtually, you can click virtual and they have a platform within the StartSOLE system. The cool thing though, is that when I'm done, say I did this, I want to reflect. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to reflect. During the investigation phase, actually through the whole StartSOLE, it's really important that you take some pictures. Now you don't need to have, it's not like to check on your teaching. It's not to check on students. It's mainly for evidence that you facilitated a SOLE. You can take pictures of the final projects. You can take pictures of the kids working, whatever you would like to, and you drag them in here. You need 10. Okay. Then it'll walk you through a reflection process. Next, you rate yourself. And then what happens is when you click save, that dings the StartSOLE company. And when you do 3 of these complete, like I plan it, I facilitate it, I reflect, when you do 3 of these, they actually give you Act 48 credits, which is really nice. If they have any questions in your reflection, they will contact you and say, well, I'm interested in hearing more about this or anything like that. Okay. So that is a way to do the whole process if I'm starting it from scratch. If I want to explore questions, there's tons of questions already created, used all around the world. Again, this is not like a vetted kind of process. So once you create it, it shows up. Okay. I can search by keyword. So maybe representation. I search the questions. I can go strictly to grade level. I can go to subjects. What I want to show you here is it has the CSTA CS standards. So that part is nice. So if I click on that, there's nothing so far in the database for representation on the computer science standards. If I just search, there's nothing in there for it. This is brand new from probably a couple of weeks ago. They added the CSTA CS standards. So you can search in there for questions in general. And so if I find a question, let's say, what makes a person recognizable? Okay, I can then click to plan a lesson. I could favorite it or do a virtual SOLE. So if I plan a lesson, then you would just walk through what I walked you through earlier. Okay, if you ever forget and you're like, I don't remember what Becky talked about in the recording. Okay, there's all these videos here of how to SOLE, how to make a big question, investigation phase, review. All of these videos are for you. But remember, this is all free, which is why I think this is so fantastic. All of these resources here. And also what's really cool is that they have free resources here that are teacher resources for you to use. Again, they are not vetted. Okay. So if you create a resource, you can scroll down to the bottom and add your resource to this little hub right here. Your name gets put on it. So if I have any questions about this resource, I can just email Justin right here. So it goes straight to Justin, who also works at StartSOLE. It goes to the person that created it. So that is a nice feature as well. As far as rubrics go, it is completely up to you how you want to score StartSOLE. You don't even have to score StartSOLE. Again, the art of teaching, you have it. So use it, your best professional judgment and how you're using it to see how you would like to score it if you like. But there are some rubrics in here. There's some sentence starters, some role sheets. So all of those things. But if I go back to the presentation here, okay, again, how does it tie to computer science? We're really glad you asked. As I showed you, those standards, the CSTA standards are there. So you can tie a question to a standard. And also, you can use this to introduce, like I said, any of those objectives. Like maybe you're introducing a new concept. Maybe you're debugging something, right? Like if it's code and the kids are, this process happens naturally all the time in a computer science classroom. This just is giving you a little bit more of a formal process and allowing you to get some Act 48 credits too. So if you start gravitating towards this and you're like, this is great, I'm going to use it. There are some additional things that are beyond the basics here of StartSOLE that we are happy to talk to you about. There is an app that you can actually use as the teacher to facilitate, and it prompts you like what percentage is I'm trying to think here, like what percentage of students are engaged at this time, to take a picture of a group collaborating. And it's really cool. If you're interested in that, let me know, and I'm happy to talk you through it. There's also YouTube videos on how to do it and resources. And also, facilitating that virtual SOLE. Not much different than a Zoom, but it is through the platform Big Blue Button. And so it might be a little bit different and tough to get used to at first. Speaking of which, I do want to mention, oftentimes people get discouraged because their first SOLE isn't what they thought it would be, or it's a little bit of chaotic, like a little bit of chaos. Keep trying, it works. And if you ever need any help, please feel free to reach out to me, or you can always reach out to Jeff as well. He's also very helpful with the StartSOLE process. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and thanks for joining us today.